Emperor Crusader had become the first emperor of Alba. To do this, he had to convert to Catharism in order to have some justification for war with Catholic Scotland. In doing so, he created a realm in which powerful dukes were serving an emperor they believed to be heretical. As such, rebellions erupted. But the way in which Crusader had split the lands up allowed for their decisive defeat. The Catholic lords of Alba were imprisoned, forcefully converted to Catharism, or had their lands otherwise redistributed to Cathar lords. As such, by the time Crusader would pass away, the majority of the imperial nobility was Cathar. The empire passed seamlessly to Emperor Brangen. Unlike his father, the new emperor had followed the Cathar faith since childhood. To Crusader, it could be argued that Catharism was a means to a strategic end, and he cared fairly little about the faith itself. Emperor Brangen was dedicated to seeing the tenets of the Cathar faith adhered to. For one, the peasants of Alba were mostly Catholic. Priests would need to be sent out to convert the population to the religion of their nobility. That was a process that could take centuries. Brangen could get the ball rolling, but he knew he would likely never see the eventuality. There was a more immediate concern on Brangen's mind, the role of women in Alba. Cathar beliefs hold that people would be reincarnated until they became a perfect and fully declined the material world. Any person could be reincarnated as any gender, as Cathars believed spirit to be sexless. As such, gender did not matter. Centuries of societal reinforcement made this difficult to achieve in a practical way. While his father had allowed for highly skilled women to hold high offices, they still did not have full equal rights to men. The laws of the empire had not yet caught up with the religious shift. Crusader made few attempts during his reign, but he was more concerned with various wars. Emperor Brangen didn't care for conquest in the name of the Cathar faith if his own realm was not fully embodying the teachings of Catharism. It seemed hypocritical to him. The main issue women faced, as far as the emperor could help, was in inheritance law. All titles would be passed to a firstborn son. Women could only inherit if there was no male heir. Emperor Brangen's firstborn child was Princess Catelyn, and he wanted her to become empress after he passed. She was greatly respected and was the most accomplished military leader of the time. It was thanks to her that many of Crusader's victories were won. In Brangen's eyes, she would be the ideal heir. To change inheritance law, the emperor would have to get the agreement of every duke in the empire. He was fairly well liked, but this was still a challenge. He granted various honorary titles and sent gracious gifts of gold. This worked for most, but the emperor needed to flex some muscle in other areas. The landlocked Republic of Mercia had to be revoked from the Catholic Grand Mayor, which went down peacefully. The largest struggle in the pursuit of medieval feminism came, oddly enough, from two women, the Duchesses of York and Brittany. Gifts of gold were not enough for them. They hated the emperor. When asked for reasons, they stated it was because they thought the emperor was an ugly hunchback. The frustration of not being able to secure the full rights of women because two women thought he was ugly was almost enough of a frustration for the emperor to just give up. However, he rose above it and decided not to blame an entire gender for the foolishness of two individuals. Emperor Brangen gave the women some honorary titles and even jobs on the council, even though the two ladies weren't particularly good at them. The Duchess of Brittany was convinced, but the Duchess of York was not. At one point, the emperor began planning her assassination, but realized he held titles he didn't need. The Duchy of Albany was mostly useless, as the lands defining it were split between two other dukes. So, the emperor gave the Duchess of York a second ducal title that came with no land. It could cause problems in the future, as she could declare war on the other two dukes, but the emperor also believed that having the dukes set against each other could be beneficial to the monarchy. If they were fighting amongst themselves, they'd be less likely to fight the emperor. With the trivial Duchy of Albany passing to the Duchess of York, all dukes were then agreed. Emperor Brangen was finally able to reform inheritance law, granting female heirs equality. Now after he passed, the literal warrior Princess Catelyn would ascend and become empress. Immediately after the passing of the reforms, the emperor fired the Duchess of York and Brittany from their council positions. The emperor now felt no moral reason not to continue his father's conquests, but even so did little militarily. Funny enough, the only lands he took were in minor conquests in which the emperor conquered the Isle of Man with Catelyn leading the effort. The majority of Emperor Brangen's rule was spent peacefully converting the peasantry to the Cathar faith.